Yes, guys, what's going on? Make sure you head over to stretfordpaddock.bigcartel.com. Check out all the new merch. Remember, members get 10% off. Go and do it now. See you later.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. That's Joe Smith.
Hey up.
Chelsea 0, Manchester United 0. Remember the day, Joe? I feel like it's deja vu all over again. February the 28th, 2021. We were there. Well, we weren't there. We were watching it. One for the ages, that game, wasn't it?
We keep saying this, don't we? Especially against big teams. The 0-0 at home to Chelsea, the 0-0 at home to City. Was it 0-0 at home to Chelsea?
0-0 at home to City, 0-0 at home to Chelsea.
0-0 to Liverpool, 1-0 loss to Arsenal.
0-0 at the Emirates.
0-0 at the Emirates. Like, when are we going to start fucking scoring against big teams? 1-1 against Leicester. It's like, anytime we play a team, and I know Arsenal aren't a big team and we can debate that all we want, but, you know, we acted and we treated that game as a big game. And it's still regarded by some people as a big game, right?
Right. All right. Well, I'll swap you the Arsenal one for the Tottenham 6-1 loss.
Well, yeah. I mean, that one's slightly different because that at least there was goals. And I mean, obviously, I wouldn't.
Thriller.
Admittedly, I wouldn't swap a 0-0 for a 6-1 loss.
I know what you're going from. I'm only being
I'm talking about the type of game we're seeing. And that Arsenal game, even the one we lost at Old Trafford, was this game all over again. It was sloppy midfield. It was cagey, nervy play from both teams. And I don't know. I wonder why that is. I wonder whether it's just as simple as teams, you know, desperate for points, must not lose rather than must win. The mentality of the managers involved. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's even a bigger picture thing than that. Maybe it is. There's no push from the crowd for those last 10 minutes to really take risks and take chances and bring on strikers and those sorts of things because you don't hear the crowd, you know, rising to their feet on a counter-attack or, you know, screaming attack when there's 10 minutes to go. Maybe it's as simple as that. In the big games, when the margins on the pitch are finer than they are in any other game, that's when the crowd matters the most. Maybe it's as simple as that. I don't know what it is. But for, you know, half a dozen times now this season, we are in these big games and we fail to score. And the only thing that's stopping it being from an embarrassing result is the fact that we luckily didn't concede. And I say luckily, they didn't have too many chances. Ziyech with the best of them, forcing a good save out of De Gea. But United didn't make many chances. Chelsea didn't make many chances. You see the stats there, 11 shots and 18 shots, 6 on target, 4 on target for Chelsea and United. But just both teams looked like, oh, a draw will do. And really, a draw won't do for either. Because yes, it will do for our top 4 hopes, and we've pulled ahead of Leicester by a point, and we've pulled ahead of West Ham by a point. But West Ham lost to Man City, who are the team in front of us, who have won the league. Like, we weren't going to win the league anyway. But for the faint veil of hope we could have kept wearing while they were 10 points behind, and we still had to play them. And then it's 7. And, you know, 7 points with 10 games to go. We've seen that sort of lead slip before. But if they beat us next week now, they go 14 points clear of us. And then it is done. I mean, it's done anyway, but I just felt like, I said it on the watch-along, with about 20 minutes to go, a draw is about as good to us as a loss. So we might as well go for it, because in terms of top 4, even if we lose, you know, we're still 6 points behind Liverpool, assuming they win their game in hand. We're still, you know, expecting West Ham to drop off a little bit. We're still going to be 3 points ahead of Chelsea. Like, a loss isn't that much worse. And yet, if we win, we can go 9 points clear of Liverpool. 12 points clear of Liverpool, 9 points clear of Chelsea. We can be within, you know, a win of 7 points of City, which again isn't great, but at least it's some pressure on them. Whereas instead, we bring. I mean, we bring Martial on. Who did he touch the ball? Who knows?
Can I just?
Sorry, go on.
Say one thing.
Yeah, of course.
Because I get where you're coming from. You do. Now, listen, I've grown up with watching United win titles and challenge for Champions Leagues, and you know, I'm not saying this is acceptable, but I feel a little bit sorry for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I'll tell you why. Right? Because that was turgid. It was, and I don't think, oh, that was good enough for Manchester United. It wasn't, but. He's not got Cavani, right? Yep. Just hear me out before, like, I know not you, but people saying, well, excuses. Mm-hmm. He's not got Cavani. You've got Anthony Martial, who's got 4 Premier League goals all season, 2 of which came against Southampton in a 9-0 thriller. Now, they all count, but let's face facts, the guy's fallen off a cliff. He's got Mason Greenwood, who's got 1 Premier League goal this season. What's he meant to do?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
we can't not back a manager financially, not giving the players that he wants, and expect him to make a sort of cordon bleu meal out of a tin of beans and bread. I like Andy Marshall. I like Mason Greenwood, but they're not firing in the Premier League. Andy Marshall is as I say, he's not firing in the Premier League, and Edison Cavani's off. And I just feel like a lot of it with Ole is, yes, he might be cautious, or yes, you can look at it and go, we should be going for this, we should be doing better. But we're just lacking quality, I think. We've got to face facts of where this team is, and I think we all got overexcited, and I mean overexcited, when we were top of the league and challenging for the title, whatnot, or briefly challenging for the title if you really want.
Oh yeah, we were top of the league. We were challenging for the title.
Briefly challenging for the title, but I think when we scratch beneath the surface, and you look at the quality in our squad, especially in the sort of the attacking roles, and even in midfield as well, and then Manchester City's, who all David Moyes, but we are physically chasing them in the league. It's night and day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't think he had a ton of options. And I'm not saying, again, the reason why I referenced the other Chelsea game, both Arsenal
No, I mean,
games,
you're right. I'm not
the
disagreeing
Liverpool
with you.
game, isn't because we had loads of options to make today. It's because it's kind of been the trend all season. And whether that's the players on the pitch, whether that's Ole, whether it's both, I just think we haven't done enough to take chances in the big games, and I think it happened again today. Maybe for slightly different reasons. Maybe, it's slightly less to blame today. But if this had been a one-off, or if this had been one of a couple of games where, we're in these big games and we never really made chances and we didn't really push for it and we didn't really take risks going forward. If this was like the only time it had happened, you could go fair enough. Again, like you said, Martial's been shocking this season. Greenwood hasn't been good in front of goal this season. Cavani's not fit. Pogba's not fit. You could excuse it. But when this has been the pattern against the top teams, that's when for me it's a bit more annoying, because you kind of go, well, would things have been different if there were players available? Because when there were players available, things really were the same.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go on.
My own point, I think this has highlighted for us what we're lacking.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's not a fluke that you've had, 8 games now, whatever it is. Not since City at home, in front of fans, that we've had goals or, a performance. I think you see 1 goal against Spurs from the penalty spot.
Yeah.
That tells you your own story. We need some quality. I know you've got some super chats. Go on, I'll let you read them.
Joe Swarbrick, our lack of a world-class number 6 in these scrappy 0-0s is so evident. We need someone who can pass through the press and the lines to feed attackers. Yeah, Fred, and in the second half especially, must have given the ball away about 15 times. It was pretty poor from him at certain times. We've got a couple more super chats as well. I think Deaglan Pollock has said, it was terrible watch. 2 of our biggest players out. Everyone around us dropped points and we maintain how far we are ahead of Chelsea. Not the worst. Yeah, that's not the
watch
worst.
Was the problem. The performance and watching that game that was served up was terrible. Go on, sorry, I'll let you carry on.
And my amateur says, Devil's advocate, we failed to win because of a systematic failure on multiple levels. The manager should have rested players midweek, and we had a poor summer. Proper trained depth will win this season. I'm assuming he's talking about Manchester City there. Tom McCartney says, our forwards were not the problem in this match. Fred gave the ball, McFred gave the ball away every time they touched the ball. Can't create chances when the midfield battle is so one-sided.
That's a fair comment, that. Because me and you, obviously on the watch along with Andy, and the one sort of in the 85th minute or whenever it was, when we broke down the right-hand side, McTominay's got Dan James and Marcus Rashford in the area, and he plays it behind, I think, Bruno.
It was Kante. It was straight to Kante, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just an awful ball, which should have been an easy pass. And there's no excuses there. You've got to do better. And those are the fine margins. We keep talking about the fine margins. Those are the ones that win you football matches at this level. And it's not good enough. And I think that if we are being Bruno, I don't want to get carried away, because it's not just this result. If you've been, as you've just pointed out, this is a series of poor results against the top 6 teams. It shows you're lacking some quality. And as someone in the super chat just pointed out there, not just in attack, but probably in midfield as well. I like Scott McTominay. I quite like Fred as well. Is that midfield going to win you a title? I don't know. I don't know if it is. And that midfield has played all these games against the top 6. So, yes, you can argue they've rarely been beaten, but they've not won any of them. And it's like, do we need a bit better than that, than just not getting beat all the time? I mean, it's just too toothless, and there's too many frustrating moments from both of them. And I think that for McTominay, yes, he's having a good season. Fred, I mean, he's just so frustrating. It really is.
In these games especially. In these games, he's very frustrating. Now, one of the big points, I mean, it wasn't even a chance in the end because of how it came about, but what could have decided this game was in the first half, Hudson-Odoi handling the ball. I mean, there's no doubt the ball touched his hand.
Yeah.
The ref was called over to the VAR screen. looked at it, decided it wasn't a penalty. We've got a quote from Luke Shaw. He says, the ref said to H, which is Harry Maguire, I heard him say, if it's a penalty, it's going to cause a lot of talk about it after. So I don't know what happened there. Now, if that's true, I'm not saying that Luke Shaw didn't say that. If he said that to Harry Maguire, what the fuck? Surely what we're seeing there can't be real, can it? The ref said, if it's a penalty, it's going to cause a lot of talk about it after. Surely he didn't say that.
I don't know what he means with that. Like, what's he saying? Like,
as in, it's a bit hot for me.
I'm not gonna give it because people will be talking about it. Well,
that can't be real.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying Luke Shaw's made it up. I'm not saying Harry Maguire's made it up. I'd have to wait and see. For me, I thought it was a penalty going by the rules. I don't like these rules, but they're the same rules I didn't like when Victor Lindelof conceded a penalty against Crystal Palace on the first game of our season. So, we need a bit of transparency. We had it with Lee Mason yesterday where he made an absolute cock up, for want of a better expression. And I just feel that that is really bad. If he's coming out and saying things like that to Harry Maguire, Harry Maguire's heard him say that, there's going to be a lot of talk of it. Because let's not forget as well, sometimes referees will do that. Do you remember Clattenburg when he came out and said he didn't send off Spurs players against Chelsea because it was a league? It was like the league was going to be decided, and even though there were red card offences, he didn't want everyone talking about it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
cool.
It's shades of that, obviously, to a much lesser important degree. But you can't make decisions based on whether you think people will be talking about it. So, I don't know. You've got a super chat there from Ross Smith. I'll let you read that.
Yeah, he says, give credit to Maguire and Lindelof. We were worried with Giroud, but they managed to keep him out most of the game. Just the final third passing let us down. Yeah, defensively, funnily enough, we were decent. Again, only that Ziyech chance was a chance that was sort of any real risk, wasn't it? They had a few speculative shots from the edge of the box as Giroud missed a diving header.
Do you know what? It's so frustrating as well because we talk about fine margins, the penalties are fine margin. You go, about these games that we've not won. The chances at Anfield, the chances at the Emirates, which, one of the Cavani ones was an absolute sitter. I don't like to use words like, look, because people get annoyed with you. But on another day, that could be 3 wins against the top 6. And then all of a sudden it's a different narrative. You're closer to City, you've got a good result, you've got a good record, and people are buzzing. I mean, we're just looking at the penalty incident there, and I think by the letter of the law, that looks like again, I'm not going to change my mind on it.
No.
I don't...
it's not like I've not seen it properly.
Yeah, I don't like...
He runs towards it.
I don't like the rules, but it's a penalty according to these rules. And it's like, what's the referee... What's he thinking now?
And it's interesting that Luke Shaw comes out and says that about... I heard him say it to Harry Maguire, that if I give this, it's going to cause a lot of trouble. Because you don't normally hear footballers coming out and saying stuff like that. It's quite an insight from Shaw about something he said on the pitch. Assuming it means what he says, what he thinks it means, that's just terrible refereeing, isn't it? If that is the case, I don't want to give it because...
You've always got to have the courage of convictions as a referee. Now, Mike Dean is a nightmare, but one thing you can't say is he lacks courage of convictions. He believes in what he's doing, even if he's wrong. So if you're coming out and you're saying, well, I think it's this, but I'm not going to give it because... it's going to cause a bit of a faff, then that's, you want sacking.
Yeah, and Luke Shaw said that it's confusing with this VAR. If it's not going to be a penalty, they might as well carry on with the game. Because that's the thing. They pulled the ref over to the screen, presumably because the people watching the telly in the van in wherever it is thought it was a penalty or thought it was a decent chance of being given as handball.
Yeah,
So
I mean, Ollie's sort of looking very annoyed. He's doing his post-match interview. I'm sure he's got a few things to say about it. But yeah, I mean, hit like as well as if you're watching, give us a like and get involved in the comments. Obviously, be reading your comments out, not just super chats. The sort of what's the general gist, Joe? What's everyone saying about that game? If you can call it that, a game.
Yeah, it seems as though that people think it's a tough match and no excuses for the way they performed. However, should have been a penalty. Pogba and Cavani injured. He's got a pitiful form maybe from Martial. Didn't give much. Van der Beek as well. He's been woeful too. So it's hard to just say bring Van der Beek in or whoever. I mean, not many people are saying that these days, are they, compared to the start of the season? Not having Pogba's pretty big though, isn't it? And
yeah,
I mean, if you want to look at it from another angle, we're playing against a team with a new manager who's having a new manager bounce with a good squad that has been heavily invested in the summer, a team that finished on the same number of points as us last season. So it's not like Chelsea is some shit team that we, have any right to just go there and batter no matter what. and maybe a 0-0 is not the worst result. Again, though, it's hard to take away the context of all of the other big teams we've played and not beaten this season, isn't it? That's the sticking point for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and you're right. And it's just how many times have me and you've been sat here saying the same things? Do you know what I mean? It's just like, we keep saying the same things, and we always sort of pivot sometimes as well to the players that are missing. We'll talk maybe about a certain decision. Yeah. We'll talk about this, and I know that, like I said, about fine margins, but at some point, you have to have a bit more. You have to have a better performances against the top teams. Now, if we can't manage it with this squad of players, Ollie's got to convince the board and say, listen, I could get us into the top 4. I can get us within touching distance of Manchester City almost. Yeah. But, I can't get us any further with this squad of players. We need some real quality there. Paul Pogba ain't going to be here next season. No. Even if he comes back into the team, he ain't going to be in this season. Edinson Cavani, he's been great. He ain't going to get better next season. No. I don't think he turns 35 and his son becomes a prolific Premier League striker. So we need to strengthen where we need to strengthen, and we're just not doing it enough. And you can see that there's a lack of quality there because you cannot rely on some of these players to get you a title. It's just that's the fact of the matter. Do you know what I mean? We're just lacking that little bit extra.
My amateur with a super chat, he said, again, I'm going to echo a statement that Jay said some time back. We rely heavily on individual brilliance rather than that system adaptation and perfection. It just feels like we can't win against the top 6. It is weird, this top 6 thing, isn't it? I mean, after we were so good against them last season, we don't seem, the difference is for me, we don't seem to be relying on counter-attacks the way we used to. And that is better against the smaller teams because you hold the ball better, you can create chances against teams who are sitting back. But against the big teams, it's hard to create chances against very good defenders who are also sat back, isn't it? Like, it's no surprise maybe that we struggle to break teams down when instead of allowing them the ball and we counter-attack, which I know McTominay's pass was bad, but one of the few chances we had to even make a chance was a counter-attack. When they don't let you counter-attack or when we don't choose to play that way, it's hard to break down good teams with good defenders.
Yeah, and this is something, we have to work on, and we have to find a formula to do that because, like you say, it is hard and it's difficult, but that's the nature. It's not easy to challenge for titles. It's not easy to win Premier Leagues. Otherwise, everyone would do it. Do you know what I mean? So that's where you've got to sort of earn your crust, if you will. Yeah. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think he's doing a fantastic job. I really do.
Me too.
I do. I've loved being a Manchester United fan more under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer than I have since Sir Alex Ferguson. And I know we've had trophies under other managers, but I just think, by and large, and I know it sounds a bit of a contradiction considering what I've just seen, by and large, the football's been better. He's restored a bit of pride, and we have, as I said, albeit however briefly, been at the top of the table. But he needs now to be back properly. He needs more because... Listen, Dan James had a good game today, relatively speaking. He had a decent game. Mason Greenwood, I think, is going to be a star, but you can't rely on these players.
No.
Anthony Martial, I think the jury's now out on him, how much you can rely on him as a number 9. So where does that leave you? Marcus and Bruno as your attackers? Come on, man. Yeah. Or Cavani? We need a little bit more quality, and I think today's a bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah, and it's the thing with Martial's a weird one because United's front line clearly needs improving. We need a right winger, regardless of what Martial's doing or isn't doing.
Yeah.
United don't have any right wingers, we need one. But when you think of top players, and this is the problem, isn't it? Because most top players, and I mean real top players, which the sort of player United should expect to have as a number 9, if we want to win stuff, fair enough, you can have a player who's not that good, who gets you 15 goals a season, but you're not going to win anything with that. If we want a top number 9 there, most top players, top number 9s, that I can think of have never had a full season in their prime years where they get 7 goals. And I'm not saying players don't have dips in form. No. I'm not saying, we've seen Van Nistelrooy, we've seen some great strikers at Manchester United. And Tevez is maybe one where you could look at him and say he didn't get many goals, but he wasn't playing as United's main number 9. No, we had other people doing that.
The problem, what you're getting, and you're right, is we've seen Martial be in and around the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Around 14 goals a season is Martial. Last season he gets 23. And you think, this is it now. As a number 9, he kicks on, and he's not. No. He's playing worse than he's ever played for Manchester United. And I like Anthony Martial. I'm not going to pretend that he's having a great season by his standards, because he isn't. So that's the worry, is the fact that he's gone sort of on this upward trajectory and then got back down.
Doug Shield with a comment there saying, Ollie just said that the ref was heard telling Maguire, I can't call the pen, it's too much controversy, which is kind of a slightly reframing and rephrasing what
I mean,
Luke Shaw
you
said.
have to get into the context there because is he saying I can't make a decision on it?
Yeah.
I can't. It's not clear and obvious to me. Which if he is saying okay, it's poorly worded, but I can sort of understand that. But if he is saying like I'm not going to give a thing that I think is a penalty because it'll be in the papers, then he's got to go. Should we wrap up there? It's 0-0, mate, and unless you're looking frowning there, have you got something you want to?
No. And whereas Benzema had 5 goals in a season, I don't know the exact number of goals he had, but he also had Cristiano Ronaldo playing next to him.
That don't count. I think Tevez had 6 goals in a season with Ronaldo next to him once. It's what happens when you've got Cristiano, not when you've got Dan James and Mason Greenwood or whatever next to you, and you're the main man. No disrespect to those players.
Even Lukaku in his second, 17 goals in his second season at United?
Yeah.
And that was considered poor. Like, your striker has to get you 15 goals a year, even in a bad year.
Lukaku got 4 goals in 2 games during his last season. Do you know what I mean? So, and I'm not a massive Romelu Lukaku fan, but we need more from our attackers. We need more points. I think it was nice while it lasted, wasn't it? That brief flirtation.
You bastard, Jay.
The title challenge, but now it's back to top 4 challenging. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Motti. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. We'll have all the reaction as well. Make sure you're checking that out. This has been Stretford Paddock's review. Thanks for watching.